turn that on too. Oh, it's taking a long time to do the live stream. There we go. All right. Oh, be quiet, be quiet, quiet, quiet. Okay. No, that is not the right thing. This is where's the right thing? There's one attendee, one person found me, us. Okay. So where's my shoot? What's happening? Great.
Yeah, Ann Stauffer is here.
Hi, Ann Stauffer. Thank you for your forbearance and your well, I guess I'm assuming in advance there will be forbearance. Thank you for your patience. I screwed up. This is what happened. And I'm just getting the live stream going over here. Do not schedule. Why does it always want to schedule? Just publish the darn thing. Okay, there. So live stream is going.
Pamela's here.
Thank you for sticking with it. Yes, and the old links work, but or that August one worked, but I did just post it in the new live stream post on Patreon, and also as a comment on that one where everybody was commenting. So I hope that people find it, and we'll obviously give people a little extra time. And I'm going to take some deep breaths. This is entirely my fault. I got distracted.
Sidetracked?
Distracted. Yes, both, all of that.
No.
I was.
That's what I figured.
And apparently I don't have sound all over, everything turned on so that all the many alerts were alerting.
Mm.
Okay. If any of you have access to the people's, you can share that link with them. But I did just post it to Patreon, so hopefully they will have gotten it by an email too. I'm just answering some notifications and some messages on Patreon.
There's another lady.
Oh, good. Okay.
Here comes some people. They must have found it.
Yes. Whew. I'm roasting because because I screwed up. Okay, let's see. Jean and Susan found us good, Anne and Faye and Pamela. So I think it's just Jean remaining from the comments on the previous post that we're waiting for. Thank you for your patience. I am glad to see you too. So what happened was that somebody posted on Facebook in the big Rigid Heddle group, was asking for information about the academy, and somebody else responded to say, oh, well, you have to watch out for those sites because they can be really snobby about rigid heddle looms. And, you know, they might not know anything about rigid heddle looms, or they might make you feel unwelcome. And so, you know.
Oh dear.
Right. And, you know, that can be true. It can be true, but it is not true of the academy. And it was important to me to make that very clear. And then I just got sucked in to
You didn't have
explaining the ways in which the academy is still good for rigid heddle people. So anyhow, Janet Kallstrom is here. Hello. We're still waiting for Jean, who I know is coming. Maybe I better post that link on that post about the technical difficulties too, in case she's looking at that one. There we go. Okay. I have to take off a layer. I'll be right back. Currently, I'm having some extra heat in my personal biosphere just now. So, let's see. We are recording, correct? Yes. Making sure we are really recording for the folks who aren't. Yes, we are. For the folks who aren't able to join us live today, because I know it was last minute. And then after the last minute in the end. Okay. Shall we begin with the scarf report? I see you're wearing a lovely scarf. Are you prepared to report?
I can report. I do not know where I got the draft. I wove this quite a while ago. It's a block twill. And I think it's based on something out of Strickler, but I don't know.
It looks a lot like one of the projects, like the same profile as a project from a class I took with Madeline Vanderhoot. So I wonder if it's in handwoven somewhere too.
I don't know, but it's pretty straightforward. You know, there's not a whole lot. It's completely symmetrical. The little blocks, both north and you know, vertically and horizontally. And this is a 10-cell warp and an Orlon weft, I believe.
Really? That's an interesting combination.
Well, I didn't have any more 10-cell to weave off my warp. I remember that. I mean, I made this probably 5 years ago. And
And what's the hand like?
Oh, it's lovely. It's very soft.
Huh. And that would, I mean, 10-cell isn't super expensive, but that would still, you know, keep the price point down.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I always like to hear of a budget-friendly alternative to
Yeah, it's worth
a less budget-friendly alternative. Do you remember the set?
No, I don't remember any of that stuff. And I didn't pick it up.
if it's 8-2 and it's a turn twill, then a 22 EPI would probably work. 24 with the slinky 10 cell.
Well, it is nice and square.
Mhm.
So, these little squares worked out just fine. So
It seems like the kind of design that would lend itself, that would still look nice even if it wasn't perfectly square, because there's enough variety in the size and shapes of those squares that,
yeah, but I really like it when you go diagonally and they all square up this way.
Of course, agreed. But there's the ideal world and then there's the real world. And it's nice when a design works in both places. Well, thank you. Lovely. So what else do we have? Do people have questions? Oh, good. Jean, you found us. Yay. Yeah, questions? Anyone? We were just discussing what we might, Mom and I were discussing earlier, what we might discuss during the office hours if nobody got the message that it was happening. And we just had to, come up with some interesting conversation. And so we were thinking, there's always I could do a site tour of the academy, or if Mom had questions, I could answer those. Or we could discuss the projects we have planned for our upcoming classes at Mom's place, which are happening in January and February. So I know that there are several points on which Mom has been waiting for me to weigh in. So she kind of has me as a captive audience for the next 90 minutes. So,
well, I'm not sure these ladies would want to listen to us talk about our classes, though. That's not exactly.
So in self-defense, ask us questions. The first one is from Ann Stauffer, who's asking if Sue will be joining my office hours on the Hand Weaving Academy. I have not asked her to do that. That is a tall order. Always welcome, but that is not currently part of the plan. I would love to have a pilot on occasion, though.
There's aren't the peer discussions? Those are actual Zoom sessions where you can see each other, right?
Yes, they are indeed. And I know you've been at some of those, Mom. Again, I don't know. I mean,
I'm planning to put them on my calendar and try to go to each of those.
Great. So what Mom is talking about is, so what Anne is talking about is that there are a monthly, as part of the academy, there's a monthly sort of consultation webinar for the premium members, and Tian and I are in alternating months. So in odd numbered months, so like January, because January and Janet start the same way, so I could remember. I am doing office hours, much like we have been doing here on Patreon for the past year. It's a 60-minute session where you can drop in, but you can also, premium members can also submit things in advance. So I can do a little homework and prep for them. And then in the other months, in the alternating months, Tian is doing the same kind of thing with design sessions. So in my months, it's physical design and structural stuff, things that are in my wheelhouse. And then in 10 months, it'll be all about design or things that are in Tian's wheelhouse. So those are these bi-monthly, in the sense of every 2 months, office hours that Anne was asking about. Would Mom be participating in those? That remains to be seen. But in addition to those, every month for all members of the Academy, not just the premium ones, we have it's called peer support weaving help, and also peer support design help. And you get both of those every month. Those are Zoom meetings, not webinars, but meetings where everybody is visible and chatting and interacting, and you can ask questions exactly like you can during these office hours, and everybody who's there will weigh in and do their best to answer, or at least to, if nobody has the answer, then everybody will talk about how you might find the answer, or what possible answers might be that are worth trying, something like that.
I'm not finding the date of the next one. I had it in my
Let me look here.
calendar, but that's okay. I can look it up on the website.
There's a peer support design help on December 28th. They are normally on Monday evenings, but that's Boxing Day, day after Christmas. We didn't figure anybody was going to want to do that. So we pushed that one back to Wednesday. And then the next peer support weaving help is on January 14th. So those are midday. They're at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Saturdays.
That's the day you arrive here.
Yes, right. So I'll be in transit. Wait, I thought I'd come on the, don't I come on the, oh, I do come on the 14th. I'll be in transit.
Right. I don't know. Well, I'll just have to see. 10 a.m.
Well, yeah, I don't land until
at 10 a.m. Pacific time.
That is what time the peer support weaving help is.
All right.
My plane will not be landing until afternoon or evening, so you won't have a conflict on my account. But I am unlikely to be there unless I've got Wi-Fi on the plane.
True, but as Pamela well knows, the ferries are not dependable these days. The ferries are very screwed up. So hopefully they will be running properly that day.
She's spelling ferries F-E-R-R-I-E-S. The F-A-I-R-I-E-S ferries are as reliable or unreliable as the Fae have ever been.
True.
Pamela is asking if our classes for Vashon are filled. I think we have a couple of spots, one spot left in fundamentals, and
Pamela doesn't need fundamentals.
I know, but to answer the question. Sorry. Thank you, Anne. I had spotlighted Mom when she was talking about her scarf, and then I forgot to unspotlight. I'm here too.
There's a little bit room in both of the towel classes, but the Janet's to be determined class is full.
I should probably make a commitment as to the topic of that course. Since it's
you will have to
anytime
soon.
There is a wait list for the TBD, Pamela, but I don't think it's very long.
Well, it's 2 people, and the thing is that they want to come together. So 2 people would have to drop out before they could come. So if one person drops out, then there'll be a spot.
Then you're in like Flint.
I would expect, people don't usually drop out unless they get sick.
Yeah. Pamela would like to be on the waiting list. Do you have that handy, Mom, or do you want me to open it up?
Oh, I have it very handy. Okay, I will add you, Pamela.
And you said both of the towel classes still have a spot or 2?
Yes. Okay, you're on it, Pamela. You're on the wait list.
So the topic for that, since I gave Mom 2 choices recently and she picked one. So the topic for the TBD is, I guess this is it's not D. D is determined, not announced. Anyway, it's likely to be crackle. Crackle as blockweave, crackle as twill, crackle, 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 crackle. Crackly things. That's one that people have been asking me about a lot. Usually, like, they take the overshot class and then they would like crackle too, please. So We're doing it. Okay, come on. Who's got questions? Do you want to do like a show and tell of the Towelpalooza projects, Mom?
Hmm,
No, not so much.
well, they're not really in what,
Not in the format.
they're not in a format, no, at this point.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I don't think that would work very well. There's some questions.
Okay, I see them now. And just because I see it here on my desk, since I mentioned Crackle a moment ago, here is some Crackle, which is, this is Crackle Polychrome, which is one of the things that we'll be doing. Oh, I think there's some sort of troubling mistake in that. I don't know if there is or not.
Well, and you're going to be doing a class in the academy on Crackle later too, aren't you?
That's right. So this week on Vashon will be sort of the proving ground for the, a test bed, we'll call it, for the learning path that's coming up at the academy. But it's not the next one. The next one we're doing at the academy is Twills, and then after that we'll be doing Crackle at the academy, and we're going to start with Crackle as Twill. And then we're going to move on to Crackle, not as Twill, but as a block weave, this kind of a thing. So Jean asked if there are any new books on the shelf. Do you have any new books, Mom?
No, not particularly.
I acquired a couple of books, but they're not precisely new. Somebody I saw on Facebook was selling this one, a Malin Sealander, and I really like the Malin Sealander books. And once it was here, I realized I already had it. You know how that goes. However, my original one is all in, I assume, Swedish, might be Finnish. I don't know. It's all in form. So now I have it in English as well. So I'm very happy about that. And I'm never sorry to have multiple copies of the best books, because in theory, someday I will have a lending library. So, 2 copies of the good ones are a good thing. And I got that with, somebody was selling for a green book, and you can never have too many copies of the green book. I used to have 2 or 3, but I've only been able to get my hands on 1 recently. So when it was available, I snaffled it up, and it came with the brown book also, and this guy. So, but they are not new animals. These are books. Well, these are books you are no doubt familiar with. The Malin Sealander books, I like her stuff because she has, it's similar to some of what you will find in Mary Black, in that she has a series of like projects. Here's a picture, here's a draft. It's very out of focus and I don't know where to hold it. These are the threads and the yarns used. But there isn't like, well, this one does say tablecloth in M's and O's. So it's worked out to be a tablecloth of those dimensions, but you could adjust it to be whatever size you wanted. And you could just take the draft if you wanted to use this structure in different materials, or for a different thing, if you wanted to make a shawl instead of a tablecloth, whatever. But I just like seeing, in particular, I like seeing cloth from other weaving cultures, subcultures, whatever you want to call them, something that isn't just straight up North American cloth, because every culture has their own, every weaving region, let's call it, has their own sort of personality. And it's really fun to see what people in other parts of the world do, because they use color differently, they use structure differently. I find this one down here quite intriguing. What is that about? It's all floaty. Those are all floaty bits. And the other thing that I like a lot about these is that they are not necessarily, the threading might be something that's familiar, but then it's not woven in the expected way. And so you wind up, pushing the boundaries of the box. One of the things that I really like to think about is, here's a structure is a threading plus a tie-up plus a treadling, or a threading plus a lift plan. And lately, the way I've been talking and thinking about it is a threading plus a shed order. I'm working on a class now for the academy that's all about that shed order, which can be represented either as a lift plan or as a tie-up plus a treadling. And it takes both of those things to equal a structure, but you can use them, in other combinations. You can take the threading from this structure and the shed order from that structure, and you get something different. And just because we don't have a name for what that combination is doesn't mean it isn't viable and interesting and potentially beautiful cloth. It might be a hot mess. It depends on how similar the components are in their requirements. But there's a lot. I think of them now as the index weave structures, i.e. structures that you can look up in the index of a book. In the index of a book, you're going to find twill and overshot and M's and O's and this and that and the other. There's a very long list. But there are also lots of cloth that you won't find in the index because it doesn't have a name. And I'm interested in those sort of outliers.
Well, as in looking at other cultures too, Pamela just came back from Gujarat in India. She went on the same tour, more or less, that I went on several years back. And the thing that just blows me away about what they do there is that it's essentially just plain weave. Their looms just have up and down and up and down, so just two sheds. But they make the most incredible designs with color and motifs too, that they what do you call it? Inlay kind of motifs.
Mm-hmm.
But just the color work and the stripes.
Yeah.
And also some other hand manipulated kinds of things, just on a simple loom. It's just
that
amazing.
goes back to what I was saying at the top of the Nod Hour about the rigid heddle and how, yes, there are people who are dismissive of rigid heddle looms as being toy looms or primitive or whatever, but oh my God, there is so much potential in plain weave, and there is so much beyond plain weave that a rigid heddle can do, and there are things that the rigid heddle is better at than a shaft loom. And viewing any kind of weaving as, oh, that's only plain weave, or that's only a rigid heddle loom, that's so short-sighted, because there's so much just artistry and beautiful stuff that people create with what somebody might consider is a, just basic structure.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Gina's saying it's so silly. One needs to respect weaving no matter the tool. Absolutely. Weaving is weaving. Weavers are weavers. Looms are looms. They all excel at something, and they're all not appropriate for something. And, finding the best tool for the job you want to do is a great idea, but using the tool you have available to do the thing you want to do is also perfectly valid. And all of it requires skill and design, and all of it has value, and all of it is beautiful. I mean, I've made some stuff that isn't particularly beautiful, but that is not the fault of the tool or the structure.
Yeah.
And somebody out there probably likes it. There's always mom.
So Pamela wrote a little bit more about the books she acquired.
Oh, goody. So yes, reading it for everybody. Pamela says, I acquired a bunch of books in Gujarat last month, and one I loved is a book on muslin, the history of muslin, which originated in India. However, muslin was the seed of the destruction of the cotton weaving industry in India, as European demand outstripped supply of the real stuff, and when the EIC exported the growing and manufacturing to other countries. Pamela, have you read the Empire of Cotton, or anybody else? That's a very fascinating book, and I am sad to say I don't think I ever finished it. I started it a couple of times, but then I always, it was a library book and it returned itself before I got it finished. But anyway, Empire of Cotton is a very interesting book that looks at the history of cotton, both in India and as part of this slave trade, and in the UK and in the US, all over the world.
Yeah, Susan's read it.
Jean asked a while ago, did she do sample books years ago? You're talking about Malin Sealander, and yes, she did. She did a series of 4 books in red, blue, green, and yellow. And it's embarrassing how long it took me to realize that the samples in each of those books were also on those color themes. And it's very difficult to find the copies of the books with the actual fabric swatches in them now, and they're very expensive if you do find them. I am very fortunate to have 2 of them. But there's also a small hardback book called the Swatch Collection, I think, which is photographs and the drafts of all 4 books compiled into one, but no, not the fabric samples. Definitely worth getting your hands on if you can. A few years ago, somebody out west was selling 2 of the books. It happened to be the 2 that I don't have, and I think they were selling them for $250 or something like that. And I was all set to get them because I thought the price was for both, but then I found out the price was for each one, and I hesitated just long enough for somebody else to snap them up, and I have been kicking myself ever since. So they're good ones. I like any swatch books though. I'm a sucker for that. Supplemental weft motifs, Pamela says. Is that's what the folks in Gujarat are doing?
Yeah, that's what, yeah. Some of the scarves that I have that I bought from the fellow that came and was here at my house when Judy Frater, the woman that led Pamela's tour, they were all exhibiting at the Folk Art Festival down in Santa Fe. And then they came up here, and a man named Diabai, who was the weaver, gave us a 2-day class. And most of it was on these motifs, the way he threaded the loom, and the way he used, let's see, 4 shafts. He did use 4 shafts, as I recall. I'd have to look it up. But anyway, so that he could make these little motifs. So we did lots of different things. It was fun.
The one that I remember I think you brought it back from that tour and then have woven some yourself, is the one where the warp is really densely threaded with 2 contrasting colors, but then the picks per inch vary. And so sometimes it's got very skinny weft stripes, and sometimes it has very long weft stripes. You don't know there's a black and white.
Well, that one that you're thinking of was made in Thailand, but I do have one that used a similar kind of spacing from India. Yeah.
I have a sample that I wove like that because I remembered seeing your scarf on the end of a double weave warp. It was on the loom for some reason or another, and that was a good set. So, but I was just weaving it as a single layer. But so I guess that would have been about twice a typical plain weave set, which would have been pretty close to the maximum set, Ashenhurst maximum set.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. Pamela is saying Diabai and the Weavers, and I will mangle that if I try it. Booch.
Kutch.
What is
Kutch.
it?
Kutch. It's the section, it's the area.
Okay.
Bouge. Bouge, that's the city.
Okay. Use a 4-shaft counterbalance pit loom with a fly shuttle. Yeah. I saw a presentation that Jane Stafford did on the Weavers of Sabahar, and they have the same kind of pit looms. Although I'm not sure if I think they're 4 shafts.
Well, pit looms are used lots of places. I saw one in Turkey.
She had a picture of one family that had somehow in their little weaving building at least 2, but I think there were more like 3 or even 4 looms all in the same space with the warps on different elevations. So one way down in a pit, and then one above that, and then one must have been up somehow. It was amazing. How to maximize your space. So when you say, I don't have room for more looms, think vertically.
Dig a pit in your floor, huh?
Yeah, right. And build a scaffold. And don't have a superstructure to your loom. Just have a thing over there for tensioning and your shafts over here by you.
Yeah.
Pamela is asking about a Hand Weaving Academy mini tour, which I am more than happy to do. I wonder though, I will probably just sort of ramble on. Is there something part in particular, or Mom, do you as a member, is there something in particular that you think is most?
Well, I think it's worth pointing out, I believe you can take a mini tour whether you're a member or not, right?
That is very true. Let me find the URL for that so I can share it. We did it's about a 30-minute tour followed by some Q&A from people who wanted to see certain things. And that video is available on the public website.
So that might be a
that's for sure
good thing to do.
Yeah. So this is the main page where it has all the information about it. And if you scroll all the way down, you'll find a video with a very short little tour. And just below that, you'll find this link, which goes to the 30-minute tour.
Janet, I have to duck out for just a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay. Oh, my mom has left me. So that, let's see. Jean says, I love my weaving books. If one wishes to discuss in the academy, does one do it through the peer group? So we have, the peer support sessions that we were talking about earlier, those are live Zoom meetings, but we also have forums that are always there 24/7. So you can ask any question you like. We have two forums. One is specifically for getting help. It's called Weaving Help. And then we have another one that's for anything else to do with weaving, and it's called Let's Talk Weaving. Eventually, when the forums get busy and the community is big, we might break those off and have additional forums. But for now, so that we don't spread people out and too much, we've just got those two big ones. And so there are already conversations in the Let's Talk Weaving forum about books, what's new on your shelf, what's your favorite weaving book, and you can start any conversation there that you want that's related to weaving. So yeah, that would be the perfect spot to talk about weaving books. I can even see, let's see here. Hopefully, ooh, everything just froze. Why did it freeze? It unfroze. All right, this is the, not what I wanted to show you. There we go. Okay. This is the list of events. This is where I was looking up the times, the days and times of the peer support sessions. But here's forums. I have this zoomed out. Let me go to, here's Let's Talk Weaving. And down here, you can see the latest conversations that have been the most recently active. But you can search right up here, books, and see. New to my bookshelf, summer and winter books. So these are conversations that are ongoing right now about books. So this one here, the conversation was started by Holly Haynes, which is a name you might recognize from office hours. But here's people discussing books and things. So this would be a great place to add your comments, or you could start your own. And of course, you could talk about them during the live meetings too, but you don't have to wait for those. So the Academy in a nutshell has got two main parts. Oh, look, I went all blurry. Well, three. I'm going to go with three main parts. There's the courses. So we have courses that are arranged in learning paths. So the idea is that the path you are on takes you to a final destination, which is a big project. There may be some small projects along the way, but all of the courses on a learning path feed into the big project at the end. Why am I blurry? That drives me nuts. And that didn't help. The analogy that we use is that we're trying to provide courses that make it possible to be a weaving chef rather than a weaving cook, if that is what you like. I personally am a cook. I follow recipes. I do not get fancy or creative in the kitchen. But if you know more about cooking than I do and you enjoy cooking, then you can tweak recipes and come up with your own result. And that's the sort of chefing part of things. So the learning path, the idea is to give you all of the different components that you need to follow the recipe, to understand the recipe, to understand all the components of the project. And then the project at the end is when we chef it up. So like, okay, here are the components and here's the project is written, here's the recipe. But if you wanted to change the set, or if you wanted to change the fiber, or if you wanted to change the color, or you wanted to change this, or you wanted to change that, how can you make this project your own rather than simply following instructions? If you just want to follow instructions, that's totally fine too. The instructions are there, ready to be followed. And if you just want to change one thing, great. But the idea is that you will have the background, the foundation that you need, and then we will provide examples of how to tweak all the different facets of a project to come up with the end result that you want. So even if the first big project class is going to be a cotton scarf in plain weave, because that's what the classes are about in the first project arc, using I think it's 8-2 Broussard cotton. But what if you want to use something thicker or finer? What if you want to make a shawl or a tablecloth? What if you want to make your stripes different? What if you want to do this or that or the other? How do you take the recipe and chef it up rather than simply cook it as printed? That's the idea. So that's the courses arranged in these learning paths. And then in addition to the learning paths, there are other courses that are not really related strictly to the learning path. They're just sort of common topics that we're going to need for all kinds of different learning paths in the future. So the one I'm working on right now is reading a draft. How do you read a draft? What should you look for in the draft? And that kind of thing. That's not part of the learning path. It's just part of weaving. And then in addition to courses, we have other kinds of content, one of which is one of the things I'm really excited about is the Weaver's Toolbox. So I don't know if any of you guys are knitters, probably a bunch of you are knitters. If you happen to know of or remember, there used to be, and maybe still is, a site called Tech Knitting that had just dozens and dozens and dozens of how do you do this thing? How do you do that thing? How do you do this other and the other and the other? Well, I want to build that for weaving. And we've started. It's called the Weaver's Toolbox. And it's got categories like design and drafting, drafting and I guess it's just drafting. Design is a different thing because that has to do with color and value and all those things. At the loom, away from the loom. So at the loom, where should I tie up my treadles? Away from the loom. How do I wet finish something? Or how do I brush up the nap on a blanket? We've got a section for tools and equipment, and then we have a section for online tools where we're putting things like the calculators that I build. And then we have one section that's called the Weaver's Glossary, which is a glossary of all kinds of weaving terms. And then those terms like shaft and harness and treadle and value and contrast and whatever, when they're defined in the glossary, then whenever you see them in a course, they have this little tiny underline, and when you point your mouse at it, a little definition pops up. So when you're reading a course and it says something about a structural drawdown, and you think, what the heck is that? What's the what else could it be? Structural what? You just point your little mouse at it and you find out what that means without having to go somewhere else and look it up or losing your place in the course. So I'm pretty excited about that too. And then in addition to the courses and these other kinds of content, we have a community, which are the forums that we already looked at. There are discussion groups that go with every single course that has its own discussion group. So as you do the assignments that are part of the group, or if you have questions about a class, assignments that are part of the class, or if you have questions about a class, you can talk about it with the other people who are taking the class. And we have those live events as part of the community that I talked about earlier. Okay, so that was a whole lot of words. If you have other questions about it, I'm happy to answer them, but I also don't want to just spend the whole time flogging the academy. If you have other stuff to talk about. Jean, do you have any new weaving books? What's your latest acquisition that you're excited about? Or anybody else? Until something pops up in either the chat or the Q&A, the reason why we're doing this today instead of in September as we had planned, I was going to do it, I think, in September from the Gaelic College during my Master Weavers level 4, but then they didn't have any internet. That was very annoying. I had gone with like all my gear my webcam and my ring light and my everything, because I was going to do the office hours and I was going to have meetings about developing the academy all week long. And then there was no internet. And then Master Weavers got cut short because Hurricane Fiona came through. And after Hurricane Fiona, I did not have power for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of no heat, no lights, no running water, and everything else. But no internet, of course. That was difficult. Other friends got their power back sooner, but the city is still recovering from that. And then last week we had a snow and windstorm, and we lost power again for a couple hours or a couple of days because there's still damaged power lines around, power poles. It's ridiculous. So that was why it didn't happen in September or in October. And then in November, I think it was just, there was something else that was going on. So this is it. This is the end of 2023. 22. I can't believe we're in December. Let's see. Jean says she got a new Richard Heddle book by Deb Jarkow. Am I saying that right? Deb Jarkow. She's I know she's got at least 1 or 2 books out, and she also teaches Richard Heddle classes on Craftsy. And I know she's done some projects for Liz, a yarn worker, too. I think I tech-headed one of them. Susan Hector says she has a book called Plain Weave by Tina Ignall. I don't know that name, that author's name. Sharon says to ask about new books after Christmas. Yay, Christmas. Okay, so that Plain Weave by Tina Ignall, if I'm saying that correct, it was published in Sweden in 2017 and US in 2022. Jean says that she also has that book, and Tina has many other books. That's not no, I'm thinking of Layla Lundell, who did the Big Book of Weaving. I like the Swedish weaving books too, a lot. I would really like to get the, what is that book called? It might just be called Swedish Weaving, something like that. I'd like to get my hands on that one, but the only times I've seen it, it's been pricey. What have you got on the loom, Mom?
Well, I'm putting the warps on for Tallapalooza. So, and I'm trying to weave off a tencel scarf that I put on we have a studio tour here the first 2 weekends of December, and it's nice to have something to demonstrate on. Well, I didn't weave much during the studio tour, so now I have to weave it off so that I can warp that loom. That loom is going to have a plated twill on it, and it's kind of a cool plated twill. I noticed that, Strickler has a really nice one too, just an 8-shaft one. Well, this is an 8-shaft, but it's woven on 12 treadles, and it's a little bit different. And since I have on this loom plenty of treadles, I thought I would just use all 12 treadles on it. So that's what we're going to do. That'll be one of our towels.
Is it the one you sent me the whiff for?
Probably. Yeah.
No, I searched for plated twill and I got Wall of Troy.
Oh, well, that's not it. The Wall of Troy we're going to put on a 4-shaft.
I see. There were a whole bunch of whiffs, so I just opened the wrong one. let's see here. Ah, it's a nice one. Okay. Sure. Is that the one?
Yes. That's the one. And it has see how easy the treadling is?
That's why it has the, or that's because I think it has the extra treadles. With plated twills, it's not unusual that that if you repeat a shaft combination on extra treadles, it simplifies the treadling quite a bit if you have the spare treadles. So we looked at this, we might see that there are some treadles that are tied up the same.
It could be treadle reduced.
Could be, maybe not though. Oh, let me zoom in. It's very small. They may all be unique, actually. Let me do it this way so
I think they're all unique, but that, you know, there's some.
It looks maybe like they're all unique, but I know that like a plated twill on 4 shafts, sort of the typical plated twill, it has a very confusing treadling, but you can simplify it considerably if you tie up the same shaft combination to additional treadles if you've got them. Yeah, these are all unique.
There's another one that I'm trying to remember just which one it is that is, I think it's going to require two treadles at a time. Although, depending on which loom we put it, it may not. So, because I have Maycumbers that have 14 treadles on one, 22 on one, and 12 on one. So there's options.
Spare treadles.
Yes.
Available.
But it's nice if people have an option for if they want to weave that again on a regular 10 treadle loom.
For sure.
That
we'll make sure they have both.
Yeah.
Both treadlings, both tie-ups and treadling.
Right.
Because the shed order is the same either way. Swedish hand weaving. Isn't that this one? Maybe not.
What?
Jean was saying in the chat that Malin Sealander did a second book called Swedish Hand Weaving with Weaving Patterns.
Oh.
This is the first one, so there's a second one. Ooh.
You'll have to go on a hunt.
I'm gonna have to put that in my book, the search alert thing. So do we have any Towelpalooza projects that are more than 8 shafts this time, Bob?
When it's 9 shafts.
Cool.
That's that Bronson one, that's the little triangles that go different directions.
I like the shawl that you did.
Yeah. And I noticed that Handwoven had a, let's see, where, I don't think I have that magazine out, but they had a towel pattern that was essentially that. It's right out of, oh yeah, it was in the November, December issue. This one.
Hang on one sec. I'm showing the draft of the diagonal Bronson, but I will stop sharing it now and then hold that back up and I'll spotlight you so people can see it. Oh yeah, that's definitely the one. And
but it's a little bit different. It's a,
is that this issue?
yes. it is 8 shafts. And I haven't analyzed it to figure out just what the differences are, but this shows a skeleton tie-up and also a 12 treadle tie-up. But it's not quite the same, because the one I have is 9 shafts.
Ooh, here's oh, it's double weave. Ooh.
Double weave.
No, I got distracted. There's a project by Denise Kovnet that I was thinking, oh, here's an example of plain weave and how great plain weave can be. It's double weave, double plain weave.
Well, if you want to put that draft back up, we can, I don't know that we actually, yeah. Yes, Janet got distracted.
You're just distracted. Got distracted.
Yeah, I think this may have a little bit more. Now, this isn't the one that, I mean, I've kind of jazzed up the one that we're going to use. But this has a really distinct, and I think maybe wider plain weave sections that divide things.
Ah, I finally found it. Oh, it's called The Perfect Towel.
Really quite cool. I don't think I can share. Well, anyway, I don't think I want to share. I'm not very good at sharing. But
what were you going to share?
Well, the way we're gonna weave it is different. It's let's see, is it this? Yeah, a diagonal Bronson 2. Do you have that one?
Diagonal Bronson 2. Diagonal Bronson -2 treadled.
Yeah,
that's what I just had open.
Oh, no, well, there's another one.
Okay. Let's see.
I mean, I've got it open. I may be able to share it, but
as attachment.
I've actually beamed that one, so it's ready to thread.
Okay, I've got the one attached to the email called New Whips. Is this the one you wanted?
I don't know, honey. Anyway, that's okay.
Is this it? Oh, look at that. It goes both ways. Fancy schmancy.
Yeah, make it a little bit smaller. So yeah, that's what, oops, the colors went away.
Well, I usually put things in structural view so that I can see what the structure is doing independent of the color.
So the colors that are a little different than that, but not too different. But that way people can weave down as far as they want to the middle of the towel and then reverse it. I think it's kind of cool.
Very cool. They could make that sort of star thing be at any point too. They could like a third of the way down, or
they could,
or put multiple in there.
Yep, and they could put a diamond in there.
All kinds of possibilities. Let's see if that's the middle of that one. So if I chop off all of this, and I do that, oh, undo. Oh, although I kind of liked it with that color.
Well, the weft color can be lots of different things.
I broke it.
It doesn't, oh gracious, it doesn't have to be white. I think it looked.
What's happening when I do that?
Dark.
That's weird. Sorry.
With a dark weft too.
make, that's what I wanted. Okay, so there. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But I kind of
When
liked.
you put together the notebook, dear, you're going to have to show some.
Wow, look at that. I like that one.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Oh, see, yeah, Janet gets distracted again. Oh, what about a brown?
Brown?
Yeah, chocolate.
Not my favorite. But I think there's lots of different things you can do with it.
Yep. Yep, yep, yep. That one. Ooh, don't like any of them as well as the blue yet. Oops, and it's not what I wanted.
See, this is how Janet gets distracted.
This is definitely how Janet gets distracted.
Starts playing.
Playing. What if? What if? What if? What if this? What if that? Okay, I'll stop. Yeah. 2022 was 2022 the year. I think it was just this past year. I got my official ADHD diagnosis, and so much is explained. So much of my life makes sense now.
No, Jean, it doesn't buckle. I made a big shawl out of that, and I had I think about 14 different stripes. I made it in Orlon because I had that in lots of different colors, and I just wanted to try it out. But I made a big shawl, and I had it in the studio tour, and somebody bought it.
Oh.
And she's going to use it as a table runner. I said, wow, you must have a wide table, because this thing is about, no, I don't know, 30 inches wide, 32 inches, not 3 feet, but it's pretty wide. Somebody leaving? Yeah.
Susan has to go. Bye-bye.
Okay, and I need to leave because I have book group. I've got
Oh,
to
right.
zip on over there.
Well, I'll stay for a bit if people have more questions, since I was so late starting, but it'll just be me. And, you know, with other.
Well, I hope to see some of you folks in person, your faces, maybe on the Hand Weaving Academy peer thing, so that we can actually look at each other. I mean, you can
That's
see
been really fun.
right, but I don't know what you guys look like. So, okay, have a very nice holiday, everybody. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Bye.
Bye, Mom. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
So, no, it's just us. Anybody got any questions or any topics? Geez, could have just done this as a Zoom meeting instead of a webinar. Although I don't think I can live stream a meeting. So, just as well. Ooh. So Anne is asking, have I seen Susan Kessler Simpson's book on creative treadling with Overshot? I had seen her first book, Simply Overshot. I had that in the store once. I haven't seen the subsequent ones. So, yeah, I haven't seen this one, this newer one. But couldn't get in on Patreon, took me to YouTube. The Academy got me here, huh? I'm just reading Jean's chat. So a lot of the treadling variations, Anne is saying that book by Susan Kessler Simpson is pretty, with a lot of the things we did, which I think she means the treadling variations from Overshot Departures, maybe, or maybe it was some of the a la carte menu stuff from Unraveling Overshot. Treadling variations. We're going to look at some of those again in the Crackle class. Polychrome and Crackle treadle does Overshot, Crackle treadle does this or that. 1 tabby, 2 tabbies. Da, 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 da. There's a fun little book by Mary Snyder, I think it is. It's just this little bitty paperback. It's only about this big. I think it's called The Crackle Weave, or something like that. And she has 14 or 15 different treadling variations. Holly Haynes and I, Holly is a name you might have recognized from Office Hours. She and I went through and like she wove them. I drafted, well, I put most of them into Fiberworks because it's not always really clear at first reading anyway, how to implement the instructions in that little book. So I just, I made a best stab at it and made Fiberworks drafts out of them. And then Holly wove them. So that was cool. Don't know if I must have those somewhere. So we're going to do the class at Mom's will be partly that kind of a thing. I think it'll be like Not Your Granny's Overshot. It'd be like the Crackle edition of it, where we have a set of looms that are set up for treadling variations. And then we have a set of looms that are set up for more like Crackle projects to look at a certain feature or facet of Crackle. Crackle in different fibers and sets, Crackle woven as twill, Crackle not woven as twill, that kind of stuff. I think that's how it's going to go. I should have this a little more figured out by now. Mom despairs of me because I plan stuff closer to the last moment than she would like. But I usually pull it off. I always pull it off in the end. It's that ADHD thing. What? Oh, Jean says she has a huge library and she thinks she has Sealander samples. And she, that's awfully generous and kind of you. Don't do it until you're done using them yourselves. But wow, I will absolutely very happily take you up on that and add them to my, probably not to my lending library, but certainly to my reference library, so I wouldn't let them out of the studio, but people could come and look at them there. Those are such fabulous books. They're so inspiring. And again, it's because the fabric in them is not something that I would ever see like at my guild meeting or at a local weaving show or something like that. It's just a whole different color sense. And it's just, I think, a different relationship with design, which is cool. Super appreciate them. Wow, that is so generous of you. And I will be able to share them then too. Hopefully, maybe in 2023, I will get the studio built that is meant to be my teaching space here. It was going to happen in 2022, but then building costs were so high. So we decided to put it off for a year, and I'm not sure that's done us any favors, and there may be changes coming at the store, which would make it possible to have some limited floor loom stuff going on in the store. But the store has been closed since that hurricane I mentioned at the end of September because the building was so damaged. They had to close it down and move everything out. Everything in my store is in storage, in a storage locker someplace. And the last time I snuck in to look and see what state the repairs were in, they had stripped the back wall down to the exterior brick. The floor is all pulled up to the concrete, wood, whatever it is down there. The beautiful tin ceiling has been removed from the back half of the store. It's still there in the front half of the store, so I'm hopeful that that means they're going to replace what they had to take down. It's a registered historic building, so there are some requirements about what they can and can't do, changes they can and can't make. So I'm hopeful that that tin ceiling will come back, but who knows? And everybody in the building, we were the only retail store in the building now, but there's a cafe, an adjoining cafe. They're also closed. Everybody, all the offices, everybody in the building none of us have been in there since the end of September. And we don't know yet when we'll be able to move back in. So that's been exciting. And then when we do move back in, it may be that my business partner will, we had sort of a long-term plan for her to retire and move her part of the business home. And that may just get sped up, which would mean I'd have the whole space, which would mean I could have looms in there, more looms. I have little rigid heddles now because they don't take up too much space. I can hang them up on the wall, but I don't have room. I haven't had room for a floor loom in there since very early days. And I would like to have more than one. Anything else to talk about, folks? I don't want to be the first one to say goodbye. This is our last office hours. I'm gonna miss it. 50. And saying 50. Oh. All my looms, 50 looms. That is a lot of looms. Jean has 50 looms. I have not counted all of mine, but it's not 50. I don't even have as many floor looms as Mom does because I don't have a place to put them. So there have been lots of floor looms I would have liked to have gotten, but no place to put them means I had to pass them up. I do have several looms that are in foster care. Two that live with my GP will someday be set up there in her clinic when her clinic is finished. And I have 2 others in other foster care. I have one magic here and one magic at my friend Sandra's house, and my baby wolf is here and my Minerva is at Sandra's house. That might be all the ones I have, all my floor looms. 7 or 8, I think. I lose track because I don't have them home. I've never parted with a loom once I acquired it. I'm a bit of a hoarder in that respect. And other respects, I'm sure my husband would say. But 50, nothing like 50. I think I only have one rigid heddle that I consider my own as opposed to the stores now, because I used to have more, but then people really wanted to buy them and I didn't have them in stock, so I sold them my own loom. That's happened a couple of times. So I just have the flip now that belongs to me. And then I have a table loom that belongs to the store. And several little rigid heddles that belong to the store that I rent out. And I have little potholder looms. And I have an inkle loom. I think I have one downstairs and one at the store. I have tablets. I just have one like floor spinning wheel at home right now. My other spinning wheels were in the store and so therefore are in storage. I think my electric is, yes, my Ashford electric wheel is here. And I'm doing my very best to forget, but my new little electric eel, which I got through Kickstarter, has arrived and been hidden away to reappear on December 25th. Let's see. Jean says, if you have an 8-shaft countermarch loom and you only need 4 shafts, do you hook up only those shafts up and down, or absolutely all 8? You only have to hook up the shafts that you are using. Yeah, the others will just hang out if they're not tied to things. People who weave frequently on countermarch looms chime in here. Mom has, well, she had a countermarch loom. She has parted ways with it. And I haven't used my own countermarch very much. It's one of the ones that are in foster care. But I'm fairly certain that it doesn't hurt a thing to have shafts not in use, not tied up. On the other hand, depending on the engineering of your loom, it can be helpful for the treadles to have a little more weight tied to them. So you can tie shafts that you're not using to treadles to give them a little bit more ballast, so to speak. Anne says on a spring, you peg them in neutral. That makes sense. Yeah. So my experience with countermarch looms is limited to Glamocris. So I don't know from other countermarch. So thank you, Anne, for weighing in on the spring. I should just promote everybody to being able to talk. We can just all talk. I think I could do that, actually. Allowed to talk. Hey, Anne, you want to talk?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Ha!
Hello.
Hello. And let's see.
Yeah, on a spring or spring 2, there's a long pin, about 8 inches long, that you thread through the little looped cords that operate the shafts at the top. It's marked with a little black mark on each cord, one for each shaft. And you thread a pin through the ones that aren't tied up. And that just keeps them in a middle in a position. The thing about the way the spring works is if you're not tied up and you haven't pinned them, they'll drop to the bottom, which is just kind of annoying. Did that make sense?
Yes. Mine isn't, my Louette is still in the boxes. It's not put together, but I know how, pretty much how it operates. Jane has done, I think, some clear videos on it, but the pin goes all the way through. So if you're using 4, I don't know if the pin can go through from the front, if it only goes through from front to back or back to front, which would mean if you had to make it go through the 4 you weren't using, right?
And then it just goes next to the cords from the 4 that you are using. So it's
I can choose them. So I can choose the ones. Oh,
yes.
That's fine. I was a little confused as how that would happen. And
so it goes through the wooden hole, the hole in the wood in the front and in the back, but you can choose which Texsolve cords you pick up.
You want to stabilize. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. And Janet, about the books. This is kind of strange because at this point in my life, I'm trying to downsize, but not with my weaving, Sensible. But, I was a potter and I have a whole professional library, and I've had lots and lots of doctor's appointments this month, for my health issues, 8 of them so far, and I have 2 more to go.
Oh.
And which has been a little hard, but my OBGYN had me so excited when I was on the table because he told he told me that he has converted his garage into a pottery. And
Ooh,
he loves throwing things. He started pulling out his phone, showing me all these porcelain pieces he did. And I used to teach this at the university and everything too, but I always wanted to do weaving. And I couldn't combine the two because one's kind of dirty and the other's kind of clean. So when he said that to me, I keep thinking I have enough for a whole studio. Because when my students leave, they're not going to do it anymore. So, they'll do painting, not clay, which they had to take, at the university. And so what happens is they give me all their tools, and I would always work with little kids to get them excited about, just like I do with weaving. That's why I have so many looms. I make little looms, so that I can teach children and get them excited. Then they go home with them sometimes. I just sent 10 of them away, so I would have had 60 looms.
wow.
But the thing is that when he said that to me, I said to him, I have all this stuff in my basement, the best of equipment and everything. And I said, I'd be very happy to give it to you if it was something that he said when he was through delivering babies, he wanted to be, in his retirement years, that's what he wants to do is clay. And he has 2 sons now that are kind of getting into it. So I'm ready to leave, and he's in with somebody else. And I thought, oh my God, my books. I bet he would just love my books. So I left him a note, and he actually texted me and said he would be honored to have my books. Well, I can't even tell you how many shelves, front and back, the books are in the back and then the ones in front. That's why I wasn't sure when you brought up, because I have so many Swedish books, by Swedish authors. And the thing is, I know it's in the back there somewhere, but now I've got these shelves empty. I'll be able to get put all my weaving books so I can put them in an order. And I will find them, Janet. I will put your name, I'll put the bobbin tree address and everything in there, so that if anything, my life expectancy at this point is 15 years at the very most. So no, don't feel bad about that. I mean, I've lived a good life, but the thing is, I do have, now what I'm doing is the weaving. As much as I can learn about structure and what have you, it's the scientist in me, I think. But in any case, I really do. I feel I have a professional library, and the reason I like to talk about books is that not everybody might have the books that I have, and I need a place where I can communicate if I want to do something in particular, communicate about it, and I'm not very tech savvy like you.
Do you know Library Thing? Are you familiar with Library Thing, Jean?
Yes, I saw that Daryl Lancaster took all her books and put them on Library Thing. I don't know how she did it.
All mine are too.
They are.
Oh yeah. And I've done it for my Weavers Guild too. We don't have a very extensive library, but and I think I also have, I don't know if I have Mom's entire library, but I have things listed as part of my library, but in a collection called Mom's Weaving Books.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's a great thing. I even bought a little widget. It's called a Q Cat that is you can scan the barcode, the ISBN barcode
Yes.
on your books, and it will automatically add it.
Yes. Oh, and while you're at it, what is the hand woven issue?
This
I
one
had
that we were
asked it
looking at
before, and I
earlier,
think what is that issue?
it's the most recent one.
Oh, all right.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, wait, it's November, December 22. I think maybe the January, February.
It is. The January
is
one
out.
is out. Okay.
Yeah. So this is November, December 22.
I knew I saw it. Well, I have all the hand wovens from the beginning of time.
Oh, I have them all I started subscribing in 94 or 95, and there's a couple issues missing in there where I
think they go back to 78. I don't know which ones mine are all filed.
I have a number from before that, but not the whole set.
Oh, well, you'll have to let me know which ones you need, and I'll mark them down.
I'm not sure if Mom has the whole set or not. I think she has most of it.
Yeah,
Sure.
I have them all, and I have some, of the weavers too, but they're just random. They were random because of things I wanted for.
I have all the weavers on PDF. So even though I don't have the hard copy of them, I have
Where
the-
did you get them on PDF?
I don't remember, and they might be bootleg.
Yeah, they might be.
So-
I've searched. I have most of the paper copies of Weavers. I had to let my handwoven go, but you can get all the handwoven back to the beginning on their site.
Yeah, I love having the current subscription, because then I can go back through all of them
Right.
and look
It's
at this.
wonderful.
And it's really nice because now I can send people a link to, here's the article in Handwoven, and if they're a subscriber, they can look at it. And if they're not a subscriber, they can't look at it. So I don't feel like I'm infringing on copyright. I don't send people the Weavers that I have in PDF because I think that is copyright infringement. They're bootleg, but I do use them for reference to look stuff up.
Yeah, they're not in operation anymore because they're like out of print type stuff,
Yeah. Still, they're still under copyright.
Yeah, I haven't gone through mine, but I was a rug weaver for years. That's why I got into the whole Swedish thing. And then and I still have my union looms up with huge warps for doing some more, but I'm not as well as I was before. So that's why I got the Luette, because I think ergonomically I will be able to do what I love to do, and it'll be less stressful for me. The only problem is getting down under a loom with a counter marsh. But my brother and I are going to design something that's going to elevate the loom so it'll make it easy, and keep it stable. I don't like the system Luette has. I think it's too unstable, and I already know someone that fell on their loom
Good.
fell on them. Yeah, so
Yeah, you will find the weaving on the spring just lovely.
I think so. I'm
Yeah.
so looking forward to it.
And the tie-up is not as complex as the Glamacra. It's twice as complex as, your typical jack loom, but it's not that bad. And
Yeah,
there isn't all that adjusting.
It's still on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. But a jack loom's on the floor too.
True.
Yeah.
I have a Luette. I got a Luette Magic, the Dobby, so that there isn't any tie-up. But I have to say I have not used it too much yet. It's a table loom. It's on a stand, and I have the treadle hooked up, but it's still a table loom, so it doesn't have a very deep shed, or it doesn't have a lot of room to maneuver. And I really am much more of a floor loom girl than a table loom girl, but I'm still pleased to have it. And that does mean that there's no tie-up.
Yeah, I have a jack loom that's a loom craft, and it's 8 shafts, and it's 45 there. That's 45 inches. My family keeps saying to me, well, I live alone, thank God, but my family says you've got to get rid of one of those looms. And it's all cherry. I love the bench. I love, but it's harder for me to do anything on it, and I might want to part with it. And I have a Leclerc, which was the first Leclerc. It was a colonial. It's pegged. There are no screws. It's pegged. And yeah, and it's big. I had to go to West Virginia to get it. But the nice thing about it is it's only 6 treadles, but for a 4 shaft, but you can convert it to an 8 shaft.
Mm-hmm.
And you can convert it to the beater bar can be down below, or it can be hung, or you can use it as a jack loom because it has the jacks, or a counter marsh loom. So I took the jacks off, and I put the rollers on for counter marsh, because I just think a counter marsh is better balanced.
Countermarch or counterbalance?
I'm sorry, counterbalance,
as
opposed to a jack.
Yeah.
So that's my counterbalance. My loom craft is my jack. Now I got a countermarch, and my 2 union looms, of course, are only 2 shaft, You know, they were made, you know, I guess in the 1930s, you know, as home looms. And the other thing about Luette, I think that's interesting, is that you can, even when it's warped, you can put the back up and it'll still fit through a door.
Mm.
And you know, that's, I can't do that with the Colonial.
No, you cannot.
You know, I have to take it all apart. So, and I have a hammock that I did take apart for my loom craft. I took the hammock. It was in a mental institution. It was used for therapy. And this psychiatrist, who was the director, thought his daughter would use it when he became director in Massachusetts. And his daughter went to school, but she became a painter. She was an artist, but she became a painter. And his wife used it, but she used it wrong. The treadles were in the wrong place. So they warped aside. So I had to make new pieces and what have you. I love it. It's a counterbalance. I love it. I did so much on it. Now it's a part in my basement, and I haven't found someone who I feel would really appreciate the value of that. So anyway, and they gave it to me. They gave it to me, you know, so I would give it to someone. But anyway, you know, one day at a time, things will come. Things come into my space, just like my OBGYN. Yeah. And I think he's Swedish too, to tell you the truth. I think he's Swedish, and he's young, you know. So the thing is, when he does retire and he's still doing it, he'll be able, I can just picture him in the winter sitting down and reading my books, you know, my pottery books and stuff. And it just warms my heart. It really does, to know that somebody would really, really, really appreciate it. Now to get him there, because I can't lift books up and what have you. So I'm going to have to work that out. But his children are home from college right now, or one of them. So I'll wait till after, in the new year. But they're all piled up on my floor here, and it's you know, deja vu. And I'm never going to do that again. You know, I'm never going to throw 25 pounds of clay, yeah, and wedge it. You know, I mean, I can handle doing, you know, 10 yards of a warp. You know, I can do that. So anyway, thank you very much. I don't want to keep you. This was kind of fun that we were able to talk.
Yeah, and we do that now. The Zoom meetings at the Academy, the meetings are always like that, pictures and voices. And during the office hours and the design session webinars, we do this too, so we can have a conversation directly rather than trying to communicate just in the chat.
Yeah,
that's awkward.
My net is so bad, Janet, that I can talk. And most of the times I'm taking care of my grandchildren, so I do it on my daughter's. But my daughter's computer, my husband, when he was alive, he made her that computer at UConn. He made her that computer, but there's no picture.
Oh,
so we can only talk. But the thing is, talking is easier for me than trying at this point, you know, trying to type. I'm a little off the wall with the chemo and stuff, you know, so, but I'm by myself so much that I can't tell you how much I enjoy the fact that I can connect with people about things that I really love, you know.
Yeah, that is one thing that the internet is very good at, keeping people from being quite so isolated, whether you've got pictures or not. So
I know, so it's really good. Anyway, thank you very much. And you know, I'll probably see you at the Academy on one of the.
Great. I hope so.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure.
All right.
And I'm going to put the bobbin tree in my books.
That's so sweet of you. Thank you.
Yeah. No problem. I'm glad they'll go to somebody who really, and if by then you don't have the second book, I'll put that in there too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I use Abe Books. I don't know if you're familiar with that website. And so I have a watch list, and I get emails when certain books that I'm looking for come up. Like I have one for the Green Book. I haven't ever bought it through Abe Books, but I'm always just curious what prices it's going for. And there was a stretch there where they were, you know, $200.
Oh my
$300.
God.
It was crazy.
Yeah, I know. People get ridiculous. Swedish hand, it's called Swedish hand weaving patterns. So don't buy Malin Salander, and it was out of Santa Barbara, I think 1959.
Okay. I'm gonna go
And the
ahead.
first one was, and actually, she even autographed it.
Oh, good
Oh, now
heavens.
that I'm looking on the front page, oh my God. So, anyway, that it's nice, but the first one was, I think, published in the United States in 1956. So this is the one you showed I have is the
Is it
first
this
one.
Is it
And
this one?
the Swedish hand and the format, Janet, don't get confused. The format inside looks the same way the other one does. It'll show you a picture of the old fashioned colors of a bunch of pillows, but they're not the same pillows.
Is it this book that's on the
Yes, that's it.
okay. That one is actually it's in Toccoa, which is not that far from my mom's place. It's in Washington State. So
Yep, that's the second book.
That's the, oh, this one is the second book? Oh,
yeah,
and I have the first book.
you have the first one.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
All
But the
right.
format inside is the same. So you might look and say, oh my God, this is a duplicate, but it's not a duplicate. She just has the pictures of the pillows, and she'll still have like tablecloth variations and napkins and twill and this and that, overshot pattern, tablecloth, at the top. The format inside the book is the same, but the content is different.
I just happened to notice that they've got the blue and the red swatch books. I think those are the two I don't have. I think I have green and yellow, and they're $330 US each.
What?
So that would be like that'd be over 400 for me.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's outrageous. Well, I don't know where mine are, but I know they're on the shelf because I would never give them away, because they're all part of her weaving experience. But I knew there were 4 books too, so I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I may have 4, but I'm not absolutely sure. I have to get to them now. Okay.
Well, this has been lovely.
Have a nice
It's 8
holiday.
p.m. Thank you. You too. I
I'm
will
gonna-
see you in some forum,
Yeah,
some format.
I will see you at the academy.
All right. Great. And
Bye.
goodbye,
Thanks,
other
Janet.
Janet.
Thank you.